तत्त्वविदं रचयाखिल दर्शन तत्त्वविदं भवशङ्कर देशिक मे शरणम्। भवता जनता सुहिता भविता निजबोध विचारण चारुमते कलयेश्वर जीव विवेकविदं भवशङ्कर देशिक मे शरणम्।
It's a very blissful experience for me, Swamiji, to moderate this session with you. Just a line comes to my mind, that you are such a divine luminary who is soaring the spiritual skies on his golden wings. I thank you for being here today. I'm going to moderate this session, and today I'm going to be the voice of a common man here, although there would be many people here who would be very well aware with the philosophy of Vedanta, with the concept of oneness, but there would be many people who would be seekers on this path, who would be just jigyasus, or who would be inspired, I'm sure, after listening to you, after this session, to tread this path, to understand such a beautiful universal philosophy of Vedanta, this great concept, given to us by our great rishis, which has been propounded by such great saints over millenniums. I'm sure that they will be inspired to seek further and find the truth themselves. The session is going to be in 5 sections, and as I said, we will keep it very simple, and after every session, we will open to questions from the audience. So thank you once again, Swamiji. Swamiji, if I have to ask you, what is the meaning of the word Vedanta?
Well, Praveen ji, thank you very much, first of all, for having me here. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be in this beautiful hall, an historic hall, Bharat Bhawan. I heard that when we were coming here, our revered Swami Nityagananji was telling me that always some kind of discussion, some talks, conversations are going on here. I think this is very much in the ancient Indian tradition of Vada, of informed intellectual debate. So, yeah, it's wonderful to be here, and I really thank all of those many people here who have made it possible, and all those who have come here, and also looking forward to our future audience all over the world, which is why we are keeping it in English, because the idea is to take this to an international audience. Now back to your question. What is the precise meaning of the word Vedanta? If you look at the word Vedanta, it literally means Veda Anta, the end of the Vedas or the culmination of the Vedas. Technically, it means what is called the Siddhanta, the final conclusions or the highest teachings, the final teachings of the Vedas. These highest teachings of the Vedas are found in a series of texts called Upanishads. A technical definition of Vedanta would be, Vedanta is the source of spiritual knowledge called Upanishads. Vedanta nama Upanishad Pramanam. There is a source of spiritual knowledge, which is the Upanishads. Those texts are called Vedanta. That's the meaning of the word. But let me give a little more expanded meaning. Swami Vivekananda, when he went to the West, and he went as a messenger of India, messenger of Hinduism, and a messenger of Vedanta there. So the way he conceived of and taught and spread Vedanta is taking the entire spiritual heritage of India, and that the whole thing in his view is Vedanta. And that is justified in a sense, because all our spiritual heritage, Sister Nivedita says, when Swami Vivekananda stood up to speak in Chicago in the World Parliament of Religions on September 11, 1893, behind him was 5,000 years of patient development in spirituality in India. So this 5,000 years or even more of history of our development of our thought, our culture, especially our spiritual culture, all of it taken together. The philosophies, the various schools of thought, the yogic practices, meditation practices, the rituals, the stories, the values, all of it together. Swami Vivekananda saw Vedanta in this global sense. Indian spirituality is Vedanta.
So as you said, Vedanta literally means it is the end of the knowledge.
The highest knowledge or the final culmination. And not in the sense of an absence of knowledge, but the final culmination of all knowledge.
So you enter, from realm of knowledge to the realm of realization, a state which is beyond words. Is that a culmination of Vedanta?
Yes, state beyond words. Well, let me extend it a little further now. The Upanishads themselves are of course Vedanta, but then another aspect of Vedanta are the various schools of Vedanta which developed over various interpretations of Vedanta. Multiple interpretive traditions have developed over centuries and millennia. So for example, right now we are celebrating the Ekatma, the oneness of all existence, and this is fundamentally based on Acharya Shankara's work. Now he belongs to a lineage which goes back before him to his guru Govindapada, to his guru Gaudapada, and all the way back to the rishis of the Upanishads. But that particular interpretive tradition is called Advaita Vedanta. So that's one school of Vedanta, where what you are saying is more precisely true, that there is a truth, there is a knowledge which takes us beyond just cognition, it takes us beyond language to an ultimate reality. So that's the way the Advaita Vedanta would be expressed. But there are other traditions also. So we have all heard of Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. See, this term Acharya has a technical significance in Vedanta. I said Upanishads are the central texts of Vedanta. There is another text which is central to Vedanta, which is the Bhagavad Gita. If you, in the Vedantic tradition, if people ask, tell us one text which is most well known and most popular, most beloved, that would be the Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna draws upon the Upanishadic wisdom and teaches Arjuna. But there is a third text, a little more abstruse. This is called the Brahma Sutras, where there is philosophical consideration of the issues which have arisen in the Upanishads. And this Brahma Sutras, these have been commented upon by great masters, and those who wrote these authoritative commentaries on the Brahma Sutras, they are technically called Acharyas of Vedanta. So Shankaracharya, based on his commentary of the Brahma Sutras, on which Advaita Vedanta, the classical Advaita Vedanta stands. But there is also Ramanujacharya, Vishishta Advaita Vada. Then there is Madhvacharya, Dvaita Vada. There is Shuddhadvaita Vada of Vallabhacharya. There is Nimbarkacharya, which is Dvaita Vada. There is the Achintya Bheda Veda school of Vedanta. So Vedanta is all of these. Here we are primarily concerned with what I would say is in the words of Dr. Radhakrishnan, the fairest flower of Indian philosophy, which is Advaita Vedanta. So yes, coming back to your question, are we talking about something that takes us beyond language, beyond thought? Yes, ultimately, what is revealed by the Upanishads is beyond human thought, beyond language, but it is approached through language and thought. After all, Upanishads are language.
Absolutely.
And philosophy depends entirely on reasoning based on these Upanishads. So through language, through reasoning, approaching that ultimate reality, that is Vedanta. You are right.
So, Swamiji, just a question. Amidst all these branches that you explained, Vedanta, which Vedanta you have closely related yourself with?
Our home tradition is what we are experiencing right now. We are Adi Shankara's Advaita Vedanta. So that is our home tradition. As reflected and taught by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda, that's a particular lineage I belong to. But yes, it is traced back to the Upanishads, but the primary interpretation which we rely upon, and all our sannyasa and the masters who are present here, we all belong, I think I'm sure all of us belong to the Shankara Parampara, I think here, yes. So that's the particular tradition we are closest to.
Swamiji, if you have to put, the philosophy of Vedanta in nutshell, in few words, not a very lengthy explanation, but in nutshell, if you have to put across to our audience here and to the world who would be watching these conversations later on, the Oneness Dialogues, how would you put, the philosophy of Vedanta in nutshell?
I'm at an advantage here because Swami Vivekananda has done all the homework and groundwork for us. So he has put Vedanta, he said Vedanta is basically these two things. One is the divinity within us, and the second thing is the oneness of all existence. So our real nature is divine, and our means everybody, all of us, all human beings, all sentient beings, there is a divinity within us, our real nature. And this entire, this tremendous universe spread out before us, this extraordinary diversity, there is a oneness. Ultimately, there is an underlying oneness. This is Vedanta. Traditionally also, if you go back to Shankara's works, we just heard a beautiful chanting of the Brahma Jnana Avalimala. There you find Shankara's formulation, which is very famous. If you ask a traditional Pandit, tell us Vedanta in one sentence, he will quote that. We just heard Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. Brahman is the ultimate reality. The universe is an appearance of that reality, and we are that same Brahman. We are nothing but that Brahman that we find in the Brahma Jnana Valimala, which was just chanted. So that's another beauty of Vedanta, such a profound, deep philosophy. Deep, it's not just a philosophy, it's an entire view of life, of civilization, of existence itself. So in the widest sense. And yet, it has been formulated with such elegance that you can express it in one sentence. You can express it as Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, and the Jiva, sentient being, is none other than Brahman. In the Upanishads, you can express it as you are that, Tattvamasi. That's all of Vedanta. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. That's all of Vedanta. You can make it even more short. Om. Just Om is all of course you have to unpack it. It's like a zip file. So when you unpack it, everything comes out of it.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, even beyond Om, we find in the Dakshinamurti Stotra, Shankaracharya himself says, silence is the highest expression of Vedantic teaching. So yeah, in an extraordinary, elegant way, the whole teaching can be given to you in silence. Can you say a little more than silence? Om. Little more than that, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. Little more than that, please explain. Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, and you are Brahman. So in all these ways, I think still Swami Vivekananda's characterization of Vedanta as the divinity within us and as the oneness of this universe, and of course, how to realize it and make it active, living, nourishing in our lives. That's also what Vedanta wants us to do, and that's part of Vedanta too.
Beautiful. Swamiji, there are other contemporary Hindu philosophies as well.
Yes.
There is Yoga, Nyas, Sankhya, there are other. But what is it there in Vedanta that if it touches you, it transforms your life, or it transforms anybody's life, And I can personally testify, for this, because it definitely transformed my life. When I read the works of Swami Vivekananda, and later the works of Swami Ram Tirth, when I was very, very young, And it so happened, that I just happened to go for a darshan in Ramakrishna Mandir, and there was a bookshop there. Not knowing anything, I just saw the books and I just picked it up, And I read it, and then later, and I would like to tell this small anecdote about my life, that later, a couple of years later, I went to see my uncle near Delhi. And here he came with a book in front of me. And he said, do you know that your grandfather gave this book to my father in 1912? And there was the book.
What was it?
Of Swami Ram Tirth, correction of his lectures in the Woods of God Realization.
Woods of God Realization, yes.
And I just looked at that book, and I don't know, it just attracted me so much So anyway, he had only one copy, so I could not borrow from him, and he used to read it every day. And I was trying to find, everywhere in Delhi where I could, procure this book, but it was not available anywhere. And so it happened, that there was Delhi Book Fair, and I used to go to Pragati Maidan and all these Delhi book fairs, to buy some books because I was very fond of reading. And as soon as I entered the Delhi Book Fair, the first stall that I saw was of Swami Ramtirth Prakashan. So I purchased, the entire series, and I read it. So it definitely, it has got, Vedanta has got, such a golden touch that it transforms, anybody's life.
True.
And as we see, all the great saints, from, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramtirth, Acharya Shankar himself, Maharishi Vedavyas, Ramana Maharishi, so many people, and Swami Chinmayanand, and so many people, and yourself, you're in that monastic order. They become, the torch bearers, of this great, beautiful philosophy. What is that which makes this Vedanta so special, so unique?
Praveen ji, you mentioned the other schools of philosophy. It is true, in one sense, Vedanta is a school of philosophy, in one sense. Certainly, when we talk about Sharadarshan or Dwadasha Darshan, 6 systems of Indian philosophy, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, and the Uttara Mimamsa, which is Vedanta, and its various sub-schools. So, technically, that is correct. But, as I said, Vedanta is Upanishads, and Upanishads is spiritual science. So the highest of sciences, the Mundaka Upanishad says, the first of sciences, the highest of sciences, Sarva Vidya Pratishtha, the foundation of all knowledge and the culmination of all knowledge is this spiritual science. And it is there in all civilizations. It is there in every religion. However, if I may say so, in its purest, most ancient form, the purest and direct teaching of the spiritual nature of ourselves and of all existence, you find in the Upanishads. That's why it transforms. That's why it is everybody, irrespective of, we are getting this teaching across oceans of time. Millennia have passed since the giving of the Upanishads. When we read the Upanishad, it speaks to us directly because it is telling us about ourselves, our real nature, who we are, what we are, and it is a saving knowledge. It transforms us and it helps us to attain fulfillment in life. It takes us across suffering and it gives us fulfillment. That's why it is so attractive. And it is basically our story. See, the most interesting subject for all of us is I, me, myself. And it's most boring for others because when we speak about ourselves, it's boring for others. But this, the teaching of the Upanishads is about our real nature. And that's why it is so transformative. It's so touching. It is tremendously significant. Yesterday, I think I mentioned, there's a Professor Evan Thompson, Professor of Philosophy in the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. He has written this book, Waking, Dreaming, Being. It's a discussion of modern consciousness studies based on, with drawing from Vedanta, drawing from Buddhism. But there he has mentioned that this consciousness studies is not a new subject. It's a hot subject now, but it's not a new subject. He said that it started thousands of years ago on the Indo-Gangetic plains in the texts called the Upanishads. Consciousness studies started there. And then he goes on to say that these Upanishads are so significant in the history of human thought that our history should be dated as not AD and BC, but before Upanishad and after Upanishad.
Beautiful.
So that is the significance of Upanishads. That's the significance of Upanishads. That's why it touches us so much.
So we can say that just reading this, it makes us realize our true eternal self.
Yes, it speaks to us about who we truly are, the goal of our life, the meaning of all of this, our deepest questions. And it speaks to us in such a pure and strong voice. There is a ring of truth about it that we feel immediately. When you read that, when you hear it being taught, you feel there is truth here.
Absolutely.
I remember one American lady, Josephine McLeod, who became a helper of Swami Vivekananda in his work, she says, when I first heard Vivekananda, I felt I was hearing the truth.
Absolutely.
Every time I heard Vivekananda, I was hearing the truth. First time I heard it is true. For second time I heard it was the truth. Third time I heard Vivekananda, it was the truth. Or every time I heard Vivekananda, it was the truth. Why? Because what was coming through Vivekananda was Vedanta. What was coming through Vivekananda was Upanishads.
Beautiful. So the young audiences here, if you want to know about your own eternal self, about your true self, about the absolute truth of the universe, do read some of the books on Vedanta, do read Upanishad. And in this session, Swamiji is going to explain us further how we can do it. So now we are going to open up, for a few questions from the audience. If anybody wants to ask any question, he can ask Swamiji.
प्रणाम स्वामी जी, मैं पद्म पांडे। स्वामी जी, हमने आपका मांडुक्य उपनिषद के ऊपर मेरी पत्नी ने 69 लेक्चर्स का पूरा आपका ऑनलाइन सुना। उसमें आपने बताया, और आचार्य गौड़पाद जी ऐसा बोलते हैं, वो जागृत और स्वप्न अवस्था में भेद नहीं करते हैं। उन्होंने बताया कि जागृत और स्वप्न एक ही तरह से ही है। अगर यदि ऐसा है तो हमें आत्मज्ञान केवल जागृत अवस्था में ही क्यों प्राप्त होता है?
The question which was asked was a deep question of Advaita Vedanta philosophy relating to Acharya Gaudapada's commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad. The commentary is called the Mandukya Karika. In the second chapter of that Mandukya Karika, called Vaitatya Prakarana, the chapter on proving the falsity or the appearance nature of the world, he uses what is called Swapna Drishtanta, the example of using dream as an example to explain Advaita Vedanta. And there he goes further and he does something remarkable. He says, our waking world, this world we are inhabiting, and the world of dreams which we experience when we fall asleep, we make a distinction between these two. So we say this is real and that was a dream. When I say that was a dream, I'm dismissing it as not real. This is reality for us. And traditionally Advaita Vedanta takes this position that, when Upanishads teach us, when Adi Shankaracharya teaches us, most of the bhashyas, most of the commentaries, they take it, this common sense approach which we have, that yes, there is a waking world and that is distinct from the dream world and of course distinct from our deep sleep experience. These are distinct, technically what we call ontologically distinct. They have different levels of reality. And that's what we feel, common sense we feel that. In technical language in Advaita Vedanta, this is called Srishti Drishti Vada. The universe has been created by God, by Big Bang, whatever it is there, and we are seeing it. Bharat Bhawan is there, then we come and see it. It's not that we are imagining Bharat Bhawan. And in dreams, whatever we see, whatever we experience is imagined, is projected by the dreaming mind. Now, this what you call in Vedanta, in Sanskrit and Hindi, Vyavastha, this paradigm is maintained by most teachers. However, there is another way of teaching Vedanta, which is called Drishti Srishti Vada, that the whole thing, just as in your dreams, this entire dream world is a projection of the dreaming mind, in this world also, in the waking world, this entire thing is a projection. It is an appearance. And there is no fundamental difference. What we took to be a difference between dreaming and waking, there is no fundamental difference between dreaming and waking. In fact, according to Gaudapada Acharya, there are only two states. One is dreaming, other is sleeping. Your dream is a dream, your waking is also a dream. And sleeping is sleeping. And waking, real waking, is waking out of this ignorance of duality and waking to your real nature. So it is in that sense he is saying that there is no fundamental difference. I know I'm very careful about saying these things because there are masters of Vedanta here and there are Swamijis here who have been dealing with this for decades. So they are listening carefully. I'm aware that Madhusudan Saraswati has said Drishti Srishti Vada is Mukhya Siddhanta. He is in his commentary on Dashashloki, Siddhanta Bindu, I think. He says Mukhya Siddhanta. The fundamental teaching of Advaita Vedanta is actually there is no difference between waking and dreaming. Why not? You see, dreams are appearances, objects presented to consciousness. Waking is also objects presented to consciousness. The structure of waking and the structure of dreaming are not fundamentally different. Subject, object, subject, object, that's it. However, this is not the teaching of Advaita Vedanta. The teaching of Advaita Vedanta is that you are Brahman. Brahman is real, world is an appearance, and you are none other than Brahman. That's all Advaita Vedanta wants to say. So this Drishti Srishti Vada and Srishti Drishti Vada, these are what are called techniques, prakriya. There is another one also, Ajata Vada. Now these techniques of instruction, they will all take you to the same realization. It's not that by Gaudapada's method you will realize some kind of superior Brahman, Brahman plus, and by Shankara's method you will realize some inferior Brahman. No, not like that. Same realization will come. But it depends on the nature, the capacity of the seeker. So those who have extreme vairagya, those whose minds are already purified, for them Drishti Srishti Vada will work just like that. But a more easier, more graded approach is Srishti Drishti Vada. There's much more to be said about this, but I will not say it.
Beautiful. I just loved it, and I would rather believe this, that this is all a dream and we are dreaming within a dream,
Yes.
It's like, the famous film Inception.
Right. There's the movie Matrix movie also like that. Yes. Somebody told me many years ago when Matrix movie was released, that Swamiji, you should see that.
Absolutely.
Because what you are saying, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
And of course the directors, they were influenced by both Greek philosophy and Buddhism and Vedanta also.
Absolutely.
स्वामी जी, मेरा नाम शिवम पांडे है. आप साइलेंस के बारे में बता रहे थे. It was the most striking word in the whole Vedanta. You told us that Vedanta is silent, but what does this silence means? Is that mean that abandoning everything and sitting in the wild, thinking or meditating or just observing surroundings, not talking to anyone?
What does that silence mean? Yes, it's not just silence. If it is only silence, the teaching of silence is the highest teaching for the student who is completely prepared. It's not the silence. I don't know anything, I can keep silent. That is not Vedanta. So, yes. So the question was, what does that silence mean? I've already said it once. That silence, if you say, please explain what is the meaning of silence, then the meaning is Om. Now, what is this Om? The meaning of Om is you are Brahman, Tattvamasi. What does that mean? That Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, your real nature is Brahman. You can keep on expanding the meaning of that. Now the specific question which you asked, let me answer in Vivekananda's words. Does that silence mean that cutting out the world, sitting quietly in the mountains and forests? Vivekananda says no. See, this is what a beautiful expression of Vedanta Vivekananda gives. I can share a little anecdote here.
Yeah, sure.
At one time, I had gone off from our mutt in Belur Mutt, and I had gone to the Himalayas, Gangotri, Harshil, in those places. I had spent time, I used to beg for my food or go to the Annakshetra and spend time in japa, in study and all of that. And I really enjoyed it in the Himalayas. I was very benefited, I must admit, spiritually very benefited by it. The period of 2 months came to an end and I was going to go back to our monastery. And I had made up my mind that this is very nice. I should come to the mountains. I had made a plan already. Every year I will come here and stay and meditate here. And then I will go back to the ashram and do whatever work is there in the ashram. I was in Uttarkashi. After the afternoon bhiksha, I was relaxing and reading Vivekananda. Then I read, keep it in mind, I am going to come to the Himalayas and meditate. Vivekananda is saying, he who runs away to the Himalayas to meditate and die there in order to realize God has missed the way. I read that. I was lying down. I sat up. Let me complete. Next, if you run away and go to the mountains, you have missed the way. Then next, Vivekananda says, he who plunges headlong into the foolishnesses and luxuries of the world has missed the way. If you run away from the world, you have missed the way. If you plunge into the world and do whatever everybody is doing, rat race, there's a saying, if you win the rat race, you are still a rat. So, if you plunge into that, you have missed the way. Then, this is mysterious. Either you will run away and go into a mountain, or you will do what everybody else is doing. Then what is the way? If both have missed the way, then what is the way? Then Vivekananda goes on, third sentence. The way is to divinize life itself, is to see divinity, God in everybody and everything which is around you, to find divinity right there. This is the Upanishads. The first mantra of the Ishopanishad, Ishavasya vidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat, that in this entire moving and unmoving, this entire universe, whatever is around you. You have to discover God. You have to cover everything by God. And literally, if you see, Isha Vasyam, everywhere it is pervaded by God. Shankaracharya explains there, to cover everything by God means to uncover. God is already there. Brahman is already there. Isha is already there. Uncover. How will you uncover? Shankaracharya says you have to discover. To cover everything by God means not artificially. Not trying to think everything is God. No, not like that. Not that everything is Brahman. Not like that. You have to uncover it. Uncover means to discover it. Mahatma Gandhi has said that if all of the texts of Hinduism, all of it were to be lost, only the first line of the Ishopanishad was left, all of Hinduism would be left, would still be there. That is Vedanta. Now, what about then going away to the mountains and meditating? Is it wrong? It's not wrong. It can help you. It can help you certainly. But that is not the central message of Vedanta. Central message of Vedanta is in the Himalayan cave meditating, there also is Brahman. But if you say that in Kurukshetra battle Brahman is not there, then you are making a mistake. Sri Krishna, that's why he told Arjuna, if you want to realize, if you want to become enlightened, yes, you can go and meditate in Himalaya and become enlightened, but you can become enlightened here also. But if you think only there you can become enlightened and not here, you are making a mistake. That is not Vedanta.
Beautiful. We are moving on, Swamiji, to the next session, which is the essence of Vedanta.
Or relatability.
Yeah. So, Swamiji, one of the principal teachings of Vedanta has been, Advaita Vedanta, that the denial of the little self, with which, people identify all their lives. What is this little self, and first stage, how we can get beyond this to realize, the true self within us?
Yes. This brings us to what is Vedanta to us? How can we relate to Vedanta? What is it to us? It's nice to read about it. It's a wonderful philosophy and we can hear so many good things about it. But what good does it do to me? Vedanta is first and foremost, Vivekananda says, first it was practical, then it became a philosophy. So first of all, it should be of benefit to me. To whom? Not just to those who are wearing gerua and sannyasi, to those who are students, to those who are businessmen, housewives, to those who are politicians, and every field of life, everybody in life, every age, wherever you are, whatever you do, Vedanta should be able to, you should be able to relate to it and it should be of use to you. How it is useful to us is, first of all, it should not remain just as something in the books. It is something that should become living for us. We should be able to say it's not a theory. What I mean by that is, right now we are sitting here. This is not a theory for us. This is a fact. Now if I say, you are Atman, Brahman, Satchidananda, we will say that's a theory. Vedanta says that is not a theory. As we feel that right now sitting here is a fact for me, I don't need any philosophy, it's real for me, it's a fact for me. Exactly in that same sense, that you are limitless consciousness, limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, that Satchidananda, that you are Brahman, that's equally, it is a fact. Now, how do I realize it as a fact? How do I make it real for me? That is where Vedanta comes in. It tells us, it shows us methods for inquiry. See here, let me say, spirituality can be done in many ways. I have often said this, Sadhu said, there are two paths, mano ya jano. Either you believe it, that's one kind of spirituality, and that's also there in Vedanta. In the bhakti schools of Vedanta, it depends on belief. Vishwas kar lo, maan lo, that you believe it, and then only it will start. Most religions are like that. In the West, in America, religion means faith. The word they used is faith, Vishwas. But Vedanta is not like that. By Vedanta I mean Advaita Vedanta, what we are talking about here, Shankaracharya's Vedanta. It is the other path, Jano, not Mano. So how do we know? How do we know anything? To know anything you have to inquire. I have to go and read the book, I have to ask somebody, I have to conduct an experiment, inquire and find out. So this inquiry is the way to relate Vedanta to us. So we must make an inquiry. And how will you make an inquiry? There are precise methods. The way of the seer and the seen, Drigdrishya Viveka. The way of inquiry into this body and mind, which is, we say it's a fact. Alright, inquiring to this fact. Panchakosha Viveka, that's one method. Or we are just talking about dreaming and waking, dreaming, deep sleep. These are facts. Who is not awake? Many fall asleep in Vedanta class. So either you are awake, or you are dreaming, or you are in deep sleep. These are facts for us. Inquire into it, and Vedanta shows us how to inquire, and then we will begin to see what Vedanta is saying is not a theory, is not far off. It is about myself, and it is here and now. Then we should be able to live that Vedanta. How do you relate to Vedanta? Listen to the teachings of Vedanta, study it yourself, think about it. That is the difficult part of it. But those who are of the intellectual sort, those who would like to know, those who would like to be convinced by reason, Vedanta, they like Vedanta very much. I've seen in the West, in New York for example, many young people come who are interested in spirituality, but they don't like the usual method of I have to believe in something. They want to understand it, and they take to Vedanta very fast. So that is the second stage, thinking about it. And then once you have heard the teachings and you have thought about it, you've got some clarity, stay with that clarity in meditation, it will become a living reality for you. So that's how you relate to Vedanta. Technically this is called Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. So this is how you relate to Vedanta.
Just a quick question, Swamiji. The Westerners, when they come to you and when they listen to you, talking about the philosophy of Vedanta, how do they react to it? And is their reaction primarily the same, as you find here in India, the people, the youth?
No, there's a certain difference. There's a difference because in India it's part of our culture. So automatically we accept it, and it's easy for us to accept. Now there's a danger here also. So because it's part of our culture, we accept it without uncritically. We don't really engage with it. Westerners, when they come to us, they're already seeking. If they were not seeking, they would be happy with their church. Or some of them are atheistic, not interested at all in spirituality, so they'd be happy. Why would they come to Vedanta Society? But when they come to Vedanta Society, many, I won't just say Westerners, non-Indians, those, it could be in America now, there are not only white people, there are African Americans, we get Asians coming to the Vedanta Society. So they're already asking a question. What is the nature of reality? Who am I? And how can I make it real for myself? So they engage directly with the material of Vedanta in some senses. So they come as serious seekers already. The advantage that Indians have, because it's our culture, the moment you are a serious seeker, it's easy to pick up.
Swamiji, as I said, I'm here as a moderator, voicing the common man who may not be aware about this beautiful, sublime philosophy of Vedanta. He may be an ignorant one, or he may be a seeker who doesn't know how to find his path, From his perspective, it's a very natural question that comes up, that, okay, if I do this, what is going to happen? How I am benefited? Right. What is the transformation that will happen in my life,
Right.
If you can enlighten us on that.
Right. That's a very good question. And often we should start with that. Technically in Sanskrit, this is called prayojanam. Why should we at all engage in all this? Because it is of the greatest use, of the greatest benefit. Not just at the end when you become enlightened and you realize Aham Brahmasmi and you are free of samsara. That's there, of course. But even before that, as we go along the path, we get benefit. There's a professor of philosophy at Harvard University, Professor Parimal Patil. He's the only one who's teaching Indian philosophy there, in the philosophy department. So he asked me this question, theoretical, a rhetorical question, that why should at all anybody become interested in spirituality? After all, moksha, nirvana, whatever, he was teaching Buddhism. How many people attain it? So if the chance of success is so little, why should anybody be interested? So I gave him two answers. Why should you be spiritual? Why should you follow Vedanta, for example? And he gave me a third answer. I'll quickly summarize the three answers. First answer is, it is not that moksha and nirvana are only for a few. Everybody will get moksha. You are Brahman, what can stop you from realizing yourself? But when you will get, so Sri Ramakrishna says, in Banaras, it's a place of Ma Annapurna. Nobody will go hungry. Only thing is, you may get your food early in the morning, afternoon, sometimes evening also. So in the cosmic cycle, you may get your moksha now in this life, next life, or after 1,000 lifetimes also. But you will get it. So first answer is, it's not that only few will succeed, all will succeed. The more effort we make, the quicker we take it up, the quicker the result is. If you don't take it up, you will come to it. Vedanta is very patient. If you say you are not interested in all this, very good, go your way. We will wait. Next lifetime you can come back. Then the second answer, this is the first answer. We will succeed, no doubt. This is guaranteed. Second answer is, once you get a taste of Vedanta, what else will you do? This is the highest thing, the best thing. And it does not contradict what you are doing. You can have your job, you can have your family, or you can be a monk, you can be a solitary spiritual seeker, whatever you are. The best thing in your life, this is the gem. This is the crest jewel, the chudamani of all spiritual paths, of all spiritual philosophies. Let me be a little narrow, little fanatical, little Vedanta, Advaita promoting. This is something I had heard from a sadhu. Now, it may be, we are a little hesitant to, what is that phrase in Hindi? Apni bhopu aap bajana. But because we are all interested in Advaita Vedanta here, let's stay with Advaita.
To blow your own trumpet.
Blow your own trumpet, but let's do this little while, without causing any offense to any other path.
Absolutely.
Or any other. All right. This sadhu told me, once you have taken up the highest, don't resort to something lower. He gave the example, a little story. He said when Hanumanji, he went to Lanka and he was fighting, I think it was Indrajit, he unable to defeat Hanuman. So the ultimate weapon given by the gods, he used it. Now Brahmastra goes to Hanumanji and says, it's a question of my prestige. You please cooperate with me. Otherwise, nobody will give me prestige. So Hanuman said, all right, to show respect to Brahmastra, I will collapse, I will faint. So that's what happened. Brahmastra was used and Hanuman cooperated with it and fainted, fell down. Now the Rakshasas being Rakshasas, one sign is that they don't have Shraddha. Brahmastra has been used and the Hanuman has fainted, has collapsed. That's it, he is captured. But they thought, Brahmastra is all right, a little rope also is necessary. So let us tie this Hanuman with ropes, ordinary rope. So they tied Hanuman with ropes. Brahmastra was insulted. What? You fools! Because of me, Hanuman is cooperating and has fainted. And now you are saying you have to supplement me with ropes. Then I am going. Goodbye. Brahmastra left. Hanumanji's condition was fulfilled. Immediately he got up and he burst out of all the ropes. He slipped out of the ropes, and then you know what he did to Lanka. So then the sadhu, after telling this story, he says, here is where, blowing your own trumpet, once you have caught hold of Advaita Siddhanta, don't look downwards. So, and it's not just this sadhu saying, Vivekananda himself, when he's talking about Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita and all that, one by one, step by step is going. When he comes to Advaita, he says, I cannot stay with falsity anymore. Let us come to truth. So, yes, this is what I wanted to share with you.
As you rightly said, that once you get a taste of Vedanta, there's no way to go.
Right. So this is the second answer which I gave. That why should you come to Vedanta? This is the best you have got. Honestly, I have explored the spiritual, philosophical, religious texts across the world. I have not come across anything that comes close to Advaita Vedanta. Nothing in this world. I met Professor Mahanti, Jitendranath Mahanti. He was a great philosopher who passed away last year, a year before last. He was from Orissa, but he had this wonderful combination of Eastern and Western philosophy. He studied in India, Nyaya, Vedanta. Then he went to Germany to study Western philosophy. He studied phenomenology of Husserl after Second World War in Germany. And he became an authority on Husserl's phenomenology. So Eastern and Western philosophy. That gentleman, Professor J.N. Mahanti, told me, Swamiji, in all my studies of the spiritual and philosophical literature of East and West, I have not come across a single sentence more profound than the opening sentence of the Adhyasa Bhashya of Shankaracharya. First sentence of Adhyasa Bhashya, those who have studied, they know. They say that Ishvataspad Pratyagochari, that one. He says, I have not come across one sentence which is more profound than that. All right. Then that Professor Parimal Patil said, these are two good reasons. I will give you third reason why you should relate to Vedanta, why you should be spiritual, why you should follow spirituality, generally he said. It is because not only ultimately you will get moksha, that is your belief, faith. Not only it's the best thing, but also day to day people get benefit from it. Once you come to Vedanta, and spirituality in general, but once you come to Vedanta, your life, our life will have meaning. You will not feel that emptiness in life. It will have meaning, purpose, and a high purpose. Everything else comes and goes in life. Family, job, health, even this body. Vedanta will stay with you from now, throughout, till the end of life and beyond life also.
Till eternity.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So these are the three reasons why we should relate to Vedanta.
So I'm sure the audiences listening here and who would listen to this later on would understand how Vedanta can benefit their lives, how it can make their lives blissful. And once you are touched by the magic wand of Vedanta, there is nowhere else to go.
Yes.
And like I'm reminded, laughingly, like Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to say, that a peacock was given opium, and he could not go anywhere else. He used to come back
again and again.
again and again. So Vedanta is that beautiful, sublime philosophy. Once it touches you, it just transforms your life. And like Swamiji explained, that this is how you can get benefited till eternity with this beautiful, subtle philosophy.
Vivekananda said, it gives you strength. So you might question, practically tell me, what benefit will it give me? It will give you strength. Tell us your problem. What problem do you have? Vedanta will give you the strength to face that problem. Vedanta will give you the highest possible answer to your deepest questions. Great benefit, great blessing.
Wonderful. So we will just open to the question and answer session once again.
Hari Om Swamiji. My name is Suyashi Dwivedi, and I have a question on oneness. We talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and sustainable development goals have been made by United Nations.
Yes.
Before that, millennial goals were there, but they were not able to fulfill them. And so far, we have also created one deadline. By 2030, will be a good pale blue dot. So, how do Vedanta justify that? Does a deadline, creating a deadline will save the earth, or what it is?
This is an important point. Not only it gives you strength, it gives you meaning in life, but what about society? What about the world? So she has mentioned the goals of sustainable development which have been set out by United Nations. Now I tell those people that this is truly the work of Ishvara. After all, what is the work of Ishvara? Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. This Sthiti, Vishnu's work, Narayana's work, is sustainability. How to sustain this Srishti? For what purpose? For a spiritual purpose, which will enable us to develop spiritually. So your sustainability goals are a very good goal, and it follows from Vedantic principles of sustaining this, a balanced life, a harmonious world, free of pollution, free of exploitation. It is in congruence with Vedantic ideals. So a lot of thought which is now coming in the United Nations. I remember once there was a Hindu-Catholic dialogue in Los Angeles, and they read out an encyclical message from the then Pope at that time, talking about the sustainability of the environment to, in kind of language which was a very Hindu kind of language. So I told the father that congratulations on having your first Hindu Pope. I don't think he was amused, but yes. So these ideas are very deep in our thought system, and not just thought system. In the life of the villages, you will see the way village society, the environment is maintained in our traditional agriculture. I don't know much about it, but little bit I've heard here and there. It shows that the same thought pattern is that sustainability. This idea is, it's a new word we are using, but this idea is an ancient idea in India. There are many things that that the new ecology movement can learn from by studying Indian culture and the Indian practices, especially in the villages.
Absolutely. As you rightly said, Swamiji, oneness with the nature is the essential thought of
Yes,
Vedanta.
yes.
Man and nature, they are one. And that is how we have been sustainable right from the Vedic times. And now slowly there is more and more awareness now coming in the world also.
One
about this.
gentleman just this morning was telling me, he pointed out something I never thought about. He is a deep thinker. He said, throughout ancient India, and he was quoting Rabindranath Tagore. So Rabindranath Tagore in one of his essays has said that real Swaraj, this was before independence, real Swaraj, what it means, a beautiful idea. He says, if you look at ancient India, our society was never dependent on the king. King had certain role, administration, policing, defense, trade, monetary standards, things like that. But day-to-day governance, agriculture, many other things, religion, health, Tirtha Yatra, all of these things, the society took care of itself. At the village level, at the city level, society was self-sustaining. And then Rabindranath Tagore says, this is real Swaraj. And this is the nature of Indian civilization from ancient times. This is where the society, this principle of self-sustenance in a whole society, not just the natural ecology, but the society itself is self-sustained.
स्वामी जी प्रणाम. मेरा नाम चेतन सिंह सोलंकी, professor from IIT Bombay. I'm drawing from the same question that she has asked. We have been discussing about the oneness from the last 2 days, and whatever observation that we have of the world today, that the air is polluted, water is polluted, and I really feel surprised how humans can pollute the same water that they are only going to drink, how we can pollute the same air that we are only going to breathe, and how we can pollute the same soil from which we are going to grow the food and eat. So the whole problem, and now it is global warming and climate change, is it the lack of understanding of oneness that people have in the world, and therefore we are missing the link terribly, and we are going terribly wrong. We are degrading our own energy levels, and is the teaching of oneness is the one tool that the world can use today to bring that co-relationship and relationship between each element of the nature, air, water, soil, but also each animal and each human beings. That oneness will help us to really come out? I
think, sir, you have answered your own question. That is true. All these problems, there is it stems from a deep ignorance of our real nature, of oneness. So, because we are so divided and we are constantly competing for resources and the greed for more and more consumption, that is what has resulted in this problem today. And if we adopt a deep philosophy of oneness, deep means at the most fundamental level that we are all one reality. See, this oneness, please sit, sir. Oneness, you can understand it in a crude way, that we will make the whole world capitalist, or whole world communist, or everybody will be converted to my religion only, everybody will become same. That kind of oneness can never be achieved, nor should it be achieved. And every attempt to achieve that kind of uniform sameness, oneness, has resulted only in conflict and violence. So Advaita Vedanta does not talk, Indian civilization does not talk about that oneness of where everything is flattened out to one idea, one ideology, not like that. We have one culture, but it is tremendously diverse, and it has celebrated diversity throughout the centuries. So how do you reconcile Ekatma, oneness, with manyness? What is the link? The link is harmony, samanvaya. So normally, manyness means conflict. But if you have the philosophy of oneness, then when you reflect upon this manyness, the resultant will be harmony. Harmony between religions, harmony between nations, harmony between cultures, harmony between nature and industry, like that, between science and religion. So this samanvaya is the result of ekatva, practically.
Beautiful. And this is what we are talking about today in the Oneness Dialogues that we are having. And as you are aware that the MP government has taken this beautiful initiative of setting up Ekatma Dham.
Yes.
It is a global center of oneness.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about it, in our upcoming sessions, Please.
Hari Om Swamiji, I am Lokamata Vidya Shankar from Bangalore. Our sampradaya, whatever we say, our culture has been in the villages, etc., has been towards sustaining the nature.
Yes.
That's based on religion and belief.
Yes.
But again, now that has been washed away from the brains of the youth, where again
True.
we are going against environment.
Yes.
So, how do we bridge the gap? And
It is by, as we were talking about this teaching of oneness and bringing back those ideas and relating to it in the language of the modern youth of our times, in the language of reason, of science, to bring back the same ideas, same values, but in the form which is more acceptable now. I thought you were talking about whether religion is the cause of division and conflict. That's a wider question. So that's different, yes. All right, should we move on to
Yes, we move on to the next session now, and we'll take questions after that.
Yes.
So, Swamiji, would like to ask you about, how can one go about understanding, the essence of Vedanta, what books he should read, what Santa Sahitya he should read, what works he should, relate to, what are the scriptures, which he can understand easily. So as a common man, as a seeker, who might be just a youth, out of the college or still studying, or maybe, a person who is a professional, who's working somewhere. And if, this genuine quest in him arises, how he should go about it? First thing I would like to ask you this,
Yes. Once the quest has arisen, the most important thing is the quest. That one must be a seeker.
Yeah.
That I must be seeking the truth. Once you are seeking the truth, luckily we are living in an age where all of this material is easily available to us. Sometimes it is too easily available to us. That's why we don't pay attention to it. It is.
Exactly.
It is on the internet. All the books are available. All the teachers are there. So yes, I think one should, for Vedanta especially, Advaita Vedanta, one should start by reading the Gita in a simple translation. Now, there are multiple translations of the Gita. Recently, one more translation was published, and the New York Times had a review of that English translation of Gita. And humorously, the reviewer has said that it seems to read the Gita is to be seized with a desire to translate it. So many people have translated. Yale University, one of the leading universities in the United States, a couple of years back, they had a summer project to collect all the English translations of Bhagavad Gita in Yale University. So, Bhagavad Gita has multiple translations. I would suggest a translation which is accurate, academically accurate, without too much explanation. Sometimes there are explanations are not wrong, but they they usually are what we call sampradayic. That means one particular lineage. We will try to explain it in our own way.
And if I may ask you, Swamiji,
Yes.
which one would you recommend, just maybe one or two or three,
There are multiple ones.
Yeah.
The one which I used at the beginning, the first Gita which I read, I can give you two. One, a simple one by Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, who was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, published by Advaita Ashram, Bhagavad Gita by Swami Sarvapriyananda. It is just the original Sanskrit shloka, word by word meaning, simple English translation, those who want it in English. Sometimes there are notes, just one or two lines, not too much, not explanation. So that's wonderful. There are different levels. You want some more explanation. So Swami Tapasyanandaji's translation of the Bhagavad Gita with notes, that has been acclaimed a lot. You want more extensive explanation in a modern sense, Swami Ranganathanandaji's 3 volumes are there based on his lectures on Bhagavad Gita. Swami Chinmayanandaji of the Chinmay Mission. I remember as a kid, I was in class 8, I used to go and sit and listen to Swami Chinmayanandaji giving his Gita Jnana, Jnana Yajna, his pravachans. So his book on the Bhagavad Gita, that's also wonderful, but that's an Advaitic explanation. Those who study in Hindi, most comprehensive book I have found is the Sadhak Sanjeevani of Ram Sukhdas ji, who lived for nearly, I think, more than 100 years, and he passed away a few years ago. Huge book, Sadhak Sanjeevani. And I said that, it would be good to have a copy of that book. Because I had mentioned it somewhere online, I started getting multiple copies. People were coming from India and bringing that book for me. Bas karo, I have got it. So, for those who are studying in Hindi, that's a wonderful book, but that's an extensive explanation. Those who are interested in Advaita Vedanta, please pick up texts Individual lectures are fine, but pick up text because it's a knowledge system. It should be transmitted as a text. I traditionally one starts with a book like Vedanta Sar, for example, which is by Sadananda Yogi. In the traditional Vedanta students, they start with that book. In our order as brahmacharis, we are taught that book. However, in the West, I usually start with another book, Drigdrishya Viveka. Now why? Because it's an exciting book. Vedanta Sar is a book of definitions. It will give you a solid base for further exploring Advaita Vedanta. But some may find it boring at the beginning. Drigdrishya Viveka is a very exciting text. From the very first verse, it plunges you into the essence of Advaita Vedanta, the heart of Advaita Vedanta. So Drigdrishya Viveka, study Aparoksha Anubhuti, but do study Vedanta Sar also. And then when you are a little more confident, pick up Upanishads with the commentaries of Shankaracharya. Then there is the wider language, in the Bhasha, in Hindi, in many of our regional languages. There's a term being used, Greater Vedanta. Greater Vedanta is beyond the Sanskrit Sahitya, beyond the Sanskrit text. In various Indian languages, there are Vedantic books. In Hindi, you have the very well-known Nischal Das' book is there, what is called that, Vichar Sagar is there. All of his Vedantic knowledge, he packed it into Vichar Sagar. Let me tell you the interesting little anecdote, if I may,
Yes.
about the importance of Sanskrit. What happened was, Nischal Das ji, he studied in Banaras. Traditionally, he studied Advaita Vedanta, the Sanskrit, the way it was taught with the Upanishads, Bhashyas, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, Prakaranas, all of that he studied from his guru. But he felt that how many people can study like this? How many people can study Sanskrit and they don't have access? Ordinary people should have access to this extraordinary knowledge. So he thought, I will translate it into local language. And he wrote the magnificent master work, which is Vichar Sagar. All his knowledge he poured into it, so that people can understand. If you know Hindi, you can understand. I have studied Hindi in school. Many of us here have studied Hindi. If you start reading Vichar Sagar, you won't be able to understand anything. The reason is, Hindi is like any other language, it evolves and changes over time. In the last 100, 200 years since Vichar Sagar was written, Hindi has changed. So it is very difficult to understand the original Hindi of Nischal Das ji, and that is also abstruse Vedantic thought, so it becomes extremely difficult. What happened was, in between, a sadhu in the south of India, he thought this book Vichar Sagar is so nice, it should be available in Sanskrit for those who don't know it. So he translated it back into Sanskrit. And Vichar Sagar is now available in Sanskrit, published also in Sanskrit. And today, those who know Sanskrit, simple Sanskrit, they can understand the Sanskrit better than the Hindi, because Sanskrit as a sort of fixed, perfect language system is frozen according to the rules of grammar. So what Shankaracharya has said 1200, 1300 years ago, you can understand today. What Nischal Das said to make it easy to give it in Hindi, you cannot understand today unless some Hindi teacher explains it to you. But if you translate it to Sanskrit, again you can understand. Across India, north, south, east, west, scholars and sadhus and all those, Sanskrit was the common language for culture and philosophy for millennia. Anyway, that's a little anecdote about Sanskrit.
Moving forward, Swamiji, so I think now I'm sure this is a great starting point that you have explained, to all the seekers on this path, how to go about it, So I'm sure they would be largely benefited, by your words.
One thing I would like to add also is, most important, it is very accessible to us by modern teachers of Vedanta. So primarily I would say Swami Vivekananda's complete works. So they are in English and now translated into multiple Indian languages very powerfully. The same old Siddhanta of Vedanta has been put to us in an accessible way, also in an inspiring way. There is a power in those words. If we study that, you will be inspired to follow and practice and embody it in your own life. And not just Swami Vivekananda, there are numerous modern teachers of Vedanta in whose works in English and in other multiple Indian and now many foreign languages also. At Harvard University, I met a Chinese gentleman, young Chinese student, who is translating Patanjali Yoga Sutras with Swami Vivekananda's commentary, Raja Yoga, into Chinese, into Mandarin, published in Beijing. So this kind, it's now available in multiple languages through the works of modern teachers of Vedanta.
Absolutely.
That's an important thing.
Like,
Ramtirth, you mentioned.
Like
you
Swami
came across,
Ramtirth.
yes,
Yeah,
you came across it
absolutely.
through Swami Ramtirth.
And it so happened, Swami Ramtirth was a professor of mathematics.
Yes, of course.
And he met Swami Vivekananda in Lahore.
Yes, he met Vivekananda in Lahore. Yeah.
And that just transformed his life,
Yes.
And he was so much inspired that he became a monk himself.
You have given me another clue. Another thing about practically practicing Vedanta is to come in contact with Vedantins. Those who are studying, practicing and teaching Vedanta, especially monastic teachers of Vedanta, in whichever sampradaya they are, it's good to come in contact with such people. So Ramakrishna always used to emphasize this, sadhu sangha. Come to meet people, talk to people who are actually practicing it in their own lives. Then you see one flame, we lit the diya outside. From one flame you can light another flame. I can light my own heart by coming in contact with people who are practicing it daily in their lives. I will also feel that it is real, it's not a theory. I can practice it right now in my life.
That is the most important part. And that reminds me of an anecdote from Mahabharata. When one of the questions that the Yaksh, he asked Yudhishthira is that how wisdom can be attained. And Yudhishthira said, that wisdom cannot be attained only by reading books. It can only be attained by keeping company with the wise.
Company with the wise, yes.
By keeping company of a true Vedanti, I think that, transformation, it starts happening.
Yes.
Like a Midas touch,
Yes.
You start getting transformed.
I heard from a sadhu in our Ramakrishna Mat that those who we learned Vedanta from, other senior Swamijis, Acharyas, by looking at their life, we felt that if I study Vedanta and practice it, I can be like this. So let me find out what is this Vedanta.
Beautiful. My next question to you is, Swamiji, if you can share your first-hand experience, how this transformation within you started happening, how the slowly, these teachings and keeping company, with these great people, it started removing the veil of ignorance from you. And, what did you experience? How did you feel? What happened? What was that transformation or the metamorphosis? Just a glimpse of that.
Yes, I started pretty young. When I was a school kid, my parents were devotees, and so we had a lot of books of Swami Vivekananda and other books lying around in the house. And I am lucky, I guess, to belong to the last generation before cable TV and internet. So we read a lot of books at that time.
Same like me.
Yes. So there were books of Swami Vivekananda. I started reading those books, and I felt that if this is true, I should pursue this in my life. Later on, this feeling grew, and that's why I became a monk. Another thing which helped me was the ashram. So when I went to the ashram, I saw the Swamijis, I saw the meditation room, the mandir, I went to the bookstall. I liked everything. Whatever I saw in the ashram, I liked. The garden there, I liked. The peaceful atmosphere there, I liked. The food, I liked. The Swamijis used to give coconut balls. So I think for a little kid, that was one attraction. That Swamiji will give a coconut ball. I liked, there is a holiness in the ashram which really resonated with me. A sense of purity, of a high-mindedness. That I found. I liked their service activities, that they are running a school and a dispensary for poor people. I liked that they cultivated knowledge, library was there. I liked sitting in the quiet meditation hall, the temple, when the small, very pure, small ritualistic puja was being done. The whole atmosphere. And I really liked the monks and the brahmacharis. So I liked everything about the ashram. This also inspired me.
And this liking, it led you to what?
So it led me to thinking, then what is the goal of life? What should I do in life? So I decided that this goal which Swami Vivekananda is talking about, the goal of God, of life is to realize God, to manifest the divinity already within us. I said, then I will do this. This is what I want in life. And then I saw the lives of the monks. I thought, let me become like them. Because that's all I want. I don't want to do anything else. It's not that to follow Vedanta you have to become a monk, not necessary. But one has to become a little monk-like internally.
Absolutely.
That one has to pursue this as a spiritual goal. So that's how I guess ultimately I ended up being a monk. And it's something I started very early in my childhood.
Very inspiring, Swamiji. Now we'll open to the audience for question and answers. Yeah.
I'm Dr. Gumashta, Akhilesh Gumashta from Jabalpur, initiated in 1987 by Swami Gambhiranandji Maharaj. It is now worth to mention here, it's not the text and satsang and everything, but some of the tourist spots in India also are Oneness Temple. I think Ellora Temple. It is the example of Advaita. It's a monolithic temple of the same stone. The stone pillar is there. Same stone elephant. Same stone Shiva is there. So it is It is a must to mention here. Now my question is, if we see life of R.K. Thakur, and if we see his life, can I dare to template this Vastu Shastra to his life? He has transformed Narendra, he has transformed Latu Maharaj, he has transformed Girish. Whether he was thinking of oneness among all the disciples, or was there any criteria of selecting a student, selecting a disciples?
Yes, Swami Brahmananda has said the most incredible spiritual power of Sri Ramakrishna was how he could mold the minds of people. He could transform the entire attitude, the spiritual attitude of a person, inspire that, make that person spiritual. Make that person spiritual. He could make it. By the sheer touch, by his presence, Sri Ramakrishna could do that. That's the most remarkable spiritual power, I think. And also, oneness, it is true. He made them all spiritual giants, those few chosen disciples. But they were all different from each other. So that is unique. You know, that when you go on the spiritual path, you don't lose your originality. In fact, you become original. You realize you become enlightened, but in your own way. And you will express that oneness in your own way. That we see in the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Was there a criterion? He was very picky. Ma Sharada was open to so many people, she gave shelter. But Sri Ramakrishna, about his closest disciples, those who would be, because they were going to be the vehicles through which he would transmit his teachings, so he wanted some of the choicest people.
Pranam Swamiji. I am Anugrah Nagaij. I am a faculty at the National Institute of Technology, Bhopal. I work in AI, that's artificial intelligence. And a very good friend, younger brother of mine who unfortunately could not make it today in this event, he talks of AI as an Advaitic intelligence. So I have very small 3 questions for you. We are moving towards the age of AI. I believe in artificial intelligence, he talks about Advaitic intelligence. So we often ponder, and we have this question which we wanted to share with you. One, how important it is for us to induct our kids into the AI which he talks about, that is the Advaitic intelligence. What should be the right age and right mode to introduce them the philosophies of Advaitic intelligence, and not just Advaitic intelligence, but also other related philosophies. 2, given the fact that we had MDGs, now we have SDGs, but sooner or later we would stumble across this point that in order to remove the conflicts between man and environment or different countries, we would require this kind of synchronicities which you talked about.
What did you say, SDG, what is that?
Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals. After 2030, we might have some other set of goals.
Okay.
How important it is for us to induct this Advaitic intelligence into the internationally followed goals and protocols so that we can achieve the synchronization and reduce down the conflicts between countries, between man and environment. And third, primarily,
questions, huh?
the last one. All of them are.
Let's go one by one,
Yeah.
If Swamiji could, address the question that
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. Please tell your friend that I'm going to borrow that Advaitic intelligence from him.
Sure. He would love that. He would absolutely love that.
Because nowadays, wherever you go, especially in the West, somewhere there'll be a question of AI. People are going to ask questions about AI, about ChatGPT and all that. By the way, let me share this with you. You will be interested in this audience especially. ChatGPT was designed and released by Sam Altman.
Yeah.
Now, in Sam Altman's Twitter feed, somebody told me that somebody asked Sam Altman, tell us something that you believe which we do not know. And he said, Atman is Brahman, using those words.
Yeah.
I said, Atman is Brahman.
I read that, yeah.
A person who comes to the Vedanta Society who has worked with Sam Altman he personally told me that Sam Altman is actually very interested in Advaita Vedanta. He regularly studies it seems.
So he should rename it as the
Advaita. Now, so AI, yes. Now your question, first question was?
How to introduce the young kids.
Yeah,
you mentioned about a lot of texts. But in terms of deliverables to school-going kids of, let's say, 6th standard, 7th standard, what would be the right way to introduce them?
So, should it be done? It should be done. And how can it be done? Through multiple modalities. It is not through lectures, because children will not listen to lectures. It can be done through stories, it can be done through games and activities, it can be done through artwork, it can be done by teaching songs and chanting, something that's musical, rhythmic, which they will pick up at what is called a pre-critical age. Pre-critical age. Let me share this with you. One of the leading intellectuals in the world today, whom you will never associate with religion, spirituality at all, and she is actually seems to be a big critic of religion and spirituality. Professor Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. She is eminent, very eminent. They call her the queen of postmodernism. She is in Columbia University. She's an emeritus professor, more than 80 years old now. So somebody asked her that, I was there in that occasion, how is it that you are critical of everything about religion, but you are not critical about Vivekananda? You are not critical of Ramakrishna? She said, how can I be critical? I absorbed Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, Sharada, all these things I absorbed at a pre-critical age. As a child, I absorbed all those things. So,
beautiful, beautiful.
At a pre-critical age, the highest ideas, noblest ideas, most liberal, open, universal ideas, those should be given to children. I will give you an example. Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, after the independence of India, he was head of a University Education Commission, 1948. So what will be the form of college and university education in the future of India? That was the first commission established after independence, and he was the chairman. In his report, University Education Commission report 1948, one chapter, Dr. Radhakrishnan says, we must give spiritual values to the youth of India. And he argues, what about secularism? How can you teach religion, spirituality in a secular country in college and university? Dr. Radhakrishnan says, there is nothing against the Constitution of India if you teach the highest values, most universal spiritual values taken from different religions. You are not preaching one religion against another religion. That you cannot do. But to teach values, spiritual values, universal values, that is not against the Constitution of India. And not only that, in that University Education Commission, he has given a full detailed syllabus based on Upanishads, Gita and all that. First year, second year, third year, what should be taught? The whole thing was ignored by the government of India at that time. That chapter, entire chapter was not taken up. So nothing was given in schools and colleges. But it should be given from childhood, middle school, high school, college and university level. And of course, you don't have to follow what Dr. Radhakrishnan has said, but you can get your own syllabus now. And it's not just books, but multiple modalities. Nowadays there are, what is that cartoon kids like that Hanuman cartoon, little Hanuman, like that. So many things are there. So many cartoons, games, activities, but also chanting, little ritual, and this idea that we are all one. Children can pick up. Swami Vivekananda says, it is so simple a truth, even a child can understand it. Yeah.
The next and third question, I'll quickly combine them. Given the fact that one day sustainable development goals after 2030 would be replaced by some other goal. Our beloved Prime Minister of India also talks about a Viksit Bharat leading and guiding the world in 2047. How important do you think it is for us to be the torchbearers of this Advaitic intelligence, as my dear friend Ashutosh talks it? And how do you see it converting into reality?
It's very important because at the heart of all of this, the very good recommendations are there, the Millennium Goals, as you said, then the Sustainable Development Goals, but there is no underlying philosophy behind it. The underlying philosophy is still the old materialistic idea that we must exploit the world and get a higher standard of living. Mahatma Gandhi was asked, when he said he was against industrialization, I don't agree with that, but he was asked, don't you want your country to be as prosperous? In those days, the ideal was Great Britain. As prosperous as Great Britain, it seems Mahatma Gandhi said, to attain that level of prosperity, Britain had to colonize half of the world. How many worlds will be necessary for a huge country like India to be a consumerist nation like that? Underlying philosophy, spiritual philosophy. We are a spiritual civilization. So first of all, again I'm quoting Tagore. Just today one gentleman told me this very beautiful thing that Rabindranath Tagore has said. First of all, we must become what we are. We already are that, but we have to become that. We have neglected what we are. So we have to become that ourselves, and that is based on this Upanishadic worldview, this Vedantic worldview, this spiritual worldview. And then it will be an example for others and it can be communicated to others. That's what I'm saying.
Swamiji, just for the clarity of the audiences who would be watching this, what is this pre-critical age that we talk about?
Which
pre-critical age, for the kids, for the children to get exposed
childhood,
to? Till what age would be most
I
ideal?
guess up to at least 15, 16, then say up to the age of say 14 or so. You see, up to the age of 12, for all children, father, mother, teacher is hero. After 12, for all children, father, mother, teacher is zero. Then friends are hero. So up to the age of 12, 13, 14, it can be taught in one particular way. Then after that age, from the age of 14, 15 onwards, this Vedanta, these teachings can be given through reasoning, through philosophical inquiry, that children will be able to grasp at that age. So there is a pre-critical method of teaching, say pre-teen, let us say, and there is a critical method of presenting it. What is more amenable to critical teaching than Vedanta? I remember when I was learning Vedanta from one of our acharyas, so one day I was a brahmachari, very tentatively I asked that Swamiji in front of the gate of Belur Mutt, I have a question, can I ask? I thought he might be annoyed or something. He said, you go ahead and ask any question. Better brains than yours for thousands of years have asked the most critical questions about Vedanta, and all of them have been answered to their satisfaction. So don't think if you ask one question, Vedanta will come tumbling down. So you are Swami Sarvapriyananda. He told this to me.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Namaskar Swamiji. I'm Professor V.K. Malhotra. By training, I happen to be a student of economics.
Namaskar.
And I have headed country's think tank, Indian Council of Social Science Research, for 2 consecutive terms. My questions are very, very simple, in fact. When we say Vedanta have led us to culmination of knowledge, finalization of knowledge, something like that, do you see there is any scope for further knowledge creation? That's one thing. When we say we start with the first line of the Upanishad, and that is the final word. I've seen, do we intend to imply that first line comes after the whole thinking has been gone into, or it is the starting point, or shall we go back to the Shunyavad, that starting point itself is the ending point? And taking clue from the sustainability question, do we think that really we could have a real model of development inspired by spirituality and taking care of the contradictions that the whole world has faced?
It's a very good question. Direct answer to your question, sir. No, one should never interpret, Advaita Vedanta or Upanishads being, or Vedanta being the end of knowledge in that sense, never in the sense that it is the end of knowledge. It is the beginning of all things. Now, the highest truth has been stated there, but we must discover and rediscover it for ourselves in every age to come. Not only that, is it possible to create further knowledge? Certainly it is. And that has been, in one sense, we have been a knowledge-based society for centuries and millennia. All our religion, all our texts, you see, they're all in the form of question-answer. They're all about seekers seeking knowledge, going to teachers, and then going to teachers and asking questions and arguing with the teachers. Once, Sister Nivedita asked a question, and then she was asking one after another questions to Vivekananda, and she felt that maybe Vivekananda will get upset. So he said, Swamiji, you are not getting upset because I am asking questions. Vivekananda said, never be afraid of questioning. I argued with my teacher, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. I argued with my teacher for 6 long years. And as a result, I know every inch of the way. And he took the pebble and he said, I am as hard as this. So never be afraid of asking questions. Now that is, so the beauty of the Advaitic path is, once you begin to get what it is saying, you realize it can withstand, and in fact it welcomes questioning. Questioning is the way, that jano ya mano. Mano is the way of traditional religion, of the faith-based approach. But jano, knowledge, is the way of the seeker, the way of the questioner. Some people say, why do you stress so much on Advaita Vedanta? So see, one reason is, among many reasons, of course it's my favorite philosophy, but one reason is, it's my home tradition, but one reason is, the people I have to deal with and talk to, there are Buddhists, there are cognitive scientists, there are out and out atheists like Sam Harris. If I go and start talking about Sri Krishna to them or our Ramchandra, they are not interested. Why should we listen to you? But then talk about our real nature, talk about the nature of consciousness, talk about the nature of existence, then they are interested. And I can tell you, I have had conversations with the sharpest of atheists, Sam Harris and all. They reject, these are people, I don't agree with them, but they reject religion A to Z, when Americans say Z. So they reject all forms of religion. But Sam Harris is on record saying that there are 2 forms, Advaita Vedanta and the Dzogchen Buddhism in Tibetan Buddhism. These 2 have a kernel of truth in them. There is the highest truth in them. He says, nobody who is reasonable can deny it. So, you talk to philosophers in New York University, which has the best analytic philosophy department in the whole world. If I talk about religion, about rituals, about devotion, absolutely not interested. But you talk about consciousness, hard problem of consciousness. The latest, I'm so happy to see, the new book David Chalmers has written, Reality Plus. He talks about Shankaracharya, he talks about Sankhya philosophy, he talks about Vasu. A time was when they neglected Indian philosophy altogether. I think Hegel or somebody said, there is no philosophy worth the name east of the Suez. So, from that time, now in their latest publications, at least they're engaging. And these people are the most critical people. They will not accept anything so easily. The greatest brains there, Schrödinger, Heisenberg, Oppenheimer, they are all interested in Eastern philosophy. And what is the philosophy they were interested in? Advaita Vedanta.
Absolutely.
Advaita Vedanta, yes. So, yes, beginning. Let me add one little anecdote I had heard from Professor J.N. Mahanti. He had heard this from Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt was a leading philosopher in the West. She was a student of Heidegger, Jewish philosopher. So Hannah Arendt said, the difference between your approach in India and our approach, the Greek approach to philosophy, is this. We think something comes from nothing. And so we are always moving forward to something new and something newer and newer. That is the Western approach. That has become the approach in Europe and now in America and the Western world entirely. But in your philosophy, you think something has come out of something. There is a reality which is manifesting. So in your world, you try to go back to the source and again take light from that source. This I am paraphrasing. She did not say it. You use the Upanishads to throw light upon your modern problems, sustainability, AI, harmony of religions, conflict, international conflict. Use that Advaitic intelligence to get new light. The same teaching. Swami Vivekananda said, it saved India in the past. And again, in this century, it will save India. Not only India, it will save the world. So new knowledge is always welcomed. I'll end in the words of Sureshwar Acharya, disciple of Adi Shankaracharya. Most traditional Advaitin. He says, either it is in the Vartika or in Naishkarmya Siddhi, one of the two. By whatever prakriya, by whatever method people get enlightened, all those methods are welcome. And Swami Vivekananda says, all those truths in the past, they have shown us the spiritual truth, and there will be more in the future, and all are welcome. That is the AI, Advaitic intelligence.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm Preeti Vadwani, and I come from Central Government University at Sagar. I did research in spirituality, but I feel that I didn't look at it from this perspective. So, yet to start from this perspective. But there was a very interesting research paper I wrote when she spoke of religion and spirituality. I had researched religious values don't relate so much to spirituality as the aesthetic values do. And it left me thinking that spirituality is more fundamental, religion is a superficial manifestation of that fundamental curiosity inside the human being. But I feel education had a basic purpose of knowing your true self, which it has lost.
Yes.
Indian government is trying to put in indigenous knowledge. Philosophy department people are studying all this since ages, but not working out. Values not being developed, character not being developed, because the basic purpose lost.
What's the question?
Okay,
so I get, you want me to comment on these issues?
Current system, how can the current system work? First question is, how can the current
Not first question. Only question. Now you have raised a few number of issues. Let me talk about those issues.
Yeah. One vice chancellor asked to me, you worked on spiritual intelligence, madam. Robots will soon be having spiritual intelligence. I couldn't agree with him. And he couldn't agree with me. And so how can the current system be working for developing the spirituality in true essence, because it's not only reading, not only meeting with people, because teachers are not such. We need
See, the problem is, you raised some interesting issues and I wanted to say something about it, but I've already forgotten it, what you raised. So, if you extend a question too much, what happens is...
AI and spiritual intelligence is one aspect, and then another is how can this current system is a real crisis. How can the current education system work out for this oneness and the true spirituality?
I have no idea. No, really. So the thing is that one must make a preset. One must make an effort, and the effort is going on now. What you are seeing around this particular program, what he is doing on his platform, what the government of India is doing, what you have done in your research on spirituality. So these are the cumulative efforts. You can't say, give me one a solution, how we can make change everything in Indian society, how we can give values to the youth, how everybody can become enlightened, how sustainability will be there in the world. Please give me the answer. How will I give you the answer? If I had the answer, then, so the thing is to engage with it and draw upon the resources which we have, and then think constructively and come up with the answers. What was going on earlier was we are refusing to engage with it. Like Rabindranath Tagore said, we must become what we already are. So that's how you engage with these knowledge systems. And I'm so glad to know now there are these IKS, Indian knowledge systems, which are being taught in different university departments. If we don't engage with it, if we don't nurture it, it will be lost. Number one, it will be lost, and we will be lost. We will have no answer for any of our problems. But you're already seeing changes, that an attempt is being, whether it's a new education policy, whether it's the introduction of Indian knowledge systems. I'll give you one example, which will show you the difference, how it helps. When I was in +2 as a student, one of the subjects which I took was logic. Why? Because there was this idea among students that this subject gives you lots of marks. You can easily get, it's high scoring. So we all took, many of us took that. And I got very high scores and all that. What did we learn in logic? we learned Aristotelian logic. There was one chapter on symbolic logic, the rest of it was Greek Aristotelian logic. Nobody ever told us. We never heard the name of Nyaya, let alone Navya Nyaya.
Absolutely.
How stunning it is. It's only later when I started studying myself, later I became a brahmachari, that in this country we have such a sophisticated system of logic. Great masters starting from the Nyaya Sutras onwards, from the Upanishads of course, but Nyaya Sutras onwards, Gautama onwards, commentary, sub-commentary, sub-sub-commentary, then the development, the contribution of the Buddhist logicians, the Jaina logicians, multi-valued logics nearly 2000 years ago, Saptabhangi Nyaya, that the Anekantavad of the Jainas, the Buddhists, Hetu Chakra, the Nyaya ideas of the discussions on Vyapti, the Nyaya ideas on the syllogism of Hanumana. Vivekananda says India developed the most sophisticated, subtle system of logic, and I'll add to that, before the coming of modern mathematical logic. Before that came, why is it that we were not even taught, we didn't even know about it? The reason is our teachers also did not know about it. The reason is they studied a syllabus which was only mildly modified from what the British handed to us, where indigenous or Indian knowledge was not considered knowledge. In Bengal, there is a word shikkito, which means sikshit. They would say, aap to sikshit hai. It means you are educated. Who is educated? Somebody who has gone to school, college, university. If somebody studied in a toll in a village and learned Sanskrit and Nyaya, he was excluded from the category of educated. What a terrible idea. That if you've gone to the British system, Macaulay's system of education, you are educated. So this has to change, and it is changing already. So the work has started. The problem which you are seeing in the field is the problem of change. The earlier system, it was not so problematic. Syllabus was fixed. We had a general idea what was to be taught, and it is something that is imported from the West and also quite outdated in the West also. But that we are continuing nicely. So there's no conflict there, but it's a dead, useless system of education. It's not doing any good to anybody. So now I think it has started, this engagement with our, nowadays at least school and college students are hearing about our traditions and are getting an opportunity to study it. As you said, not only information, it should become living again. Yes. The West did not, in the West philosophy is dead, religion is dead or philosophy is also dead. But they did not ignore it. Some people cultivated it continuously. So that's why people will say your Indian philosophy is a dead, obsolete system. It is obsolete. Why is it obsolete? Because you are not doing it. Janardhan Ganeri has written a book, The Lost Age of Reason. He shows how Navya Nyaya, the schools in Mithila, Navadvip and all, finally came to an end in 1800, 1900, around that time, because of lack of patronage, lack of interest, and the prevalence of the modern English system of education. Those schools slowly disappeared. They became very small and very ineffectual. So the Navya Nyaya system died out, lost age of reason. It's our fault. We have to engage with it means actually make these living systems. What you are saying, what should be our philosophy, what should be our education system? I remember B.Ed, I also did a B.Ed, and there we had a paper, Philosophy of Education. All of it was Western philosophy of education, was at one time. Why? Why not? But then your question will say, then what will you teach? Where is your Advaitic philosophy of education? Where is Nyaya philosophy? You have to develop it. You have to develop it. You cannot see those who came before us from the Upanishadic ages till the modern age. Look at the caliber of those brains. They continuously developed. They continuously thought about it. Newer and newer forms, newer Purvapakshas, and newer, they enriched it. But at one time, we abandoned that effort. That's why those systems seem obsolete now. But there's so much resource there. So much. Look at the confidence of the Tibetans and our lack of confidence. The Tibetan Buddhists, Dalai Lama, to his credit, and all of his lamas and all, they took, what did they have? They were driven out of their land. And they came as refugees here and they have stayed here and they are very grateful. Dalai Lama is always grateful that India has sheltered us. But look at the confidence. What we have is our Buddhist philosophy. And based on that, they, first of all, they taught it to all Tibetan children who came as refugees here. They did not lose their culture. Then they spread it across the world. Tibetan Buddhism is the most popular form of Buddhism, more popular than Vedanta in the US. Why? One reason is because of the efforts of Dalai Lama and others. They are very confident. They are very confident of the knowledge system which they have. And what is that knowledge system? In the words of the Dalai Lama himself, he has time and again said to Indians, to us, it is your Nalanda system of philosophy and your entire heritage of Nalanda which you gave to us. Now we are returning to you only. We are eternally grateful, whatever we are. Now, how confident they are in one system of thought which they have nurtured and nourished. We have a whole range and spectrum of such systems of thought, and we should nurture it and nourish it, and it will be the answer to our question. I am reminded of one anecdote, I'll end there. Abdul Kalam ji, when he was president of India, he visited Belur Math. He came to meet Swami Ranganathananda ji, who was the president of our order at that time. And because Ranganathan ji was ill, he could not go to meet President Abdul Kalam. President Abdul Kalam said, I will go to Belur Math to meet Swami Ranganathananda. I always like aeroplanes and helicopters. So the president came in a helicopter, I was very interested in that. But later I heard meeting between Ranganathan ji and Abdul Kalam. Ranganathan ji, who is himself one of the most positive persons, but he had one little sorrow which he expressed to President Abdul Kalam. He said, I am worried about the state of the nation, corruption and our division and all other issues, poverty and all these issues. What will happen in our country? I am worried about it. And those who were present, they told me, first of all, they said Abdul Kalam ji was just like a child, so vibrant in that advanced stage. He would be sitting at the edge of the chair like this and talking with Swami Ranganathan ji. When Ranganathan ji said this, that what is the future of the nation, I am worried about it. President Abdul Kalam, APJ Abdul Kalam is saying, Swamiji, don't worry. In this nation, we have a vast spiritual, philosophical heritage. All this heritage is there. We will use this to solve all the problems of our nation. You may say, Kab hoga? Abhi ho raha hai. The difficulties you are facing is a sign of that, because you are trying to change it. That's why but we must persist. We must persist.
And if I may add to this, Swamiji, just two things, the colonialism that we had for so many centuries, as an effect of that, the Britishers, they decimated our Guru Shishya Parampara.
Of course.
And they introduced, this modern education system, in form of the, this English Education Act of 1835.
But we cooperated with it also.
And and coming to the next one, okay, they did whatever they had to do because they had to colonize us. Even post-independence, we did not make corrections. Now, we are waking up from that amnesia, and slowly we're trying to bring back, the entire nation on the right path. This is going to take some time.
Yes.
And I'm sure that we will revive, the Guru Shishya Parampara. Prachyam has made, films on this, on Guru Shishya Parampara, where we have explained, exactly this, how this has happened. And also Sahibs who never left, in two cities, you can watch that.
We'll watch that.
Yeah, we'll explain. We have explained it. What happened with us.
You see, one thing is we will never go back to the age of the Upanishad. That's gone. We'll never go back to the Vedic ages. That's gone. We will also not go back to the age of Shankaracharya. That's gone. But all that what we call virasat, the heritage, that is ours, and that we must use to look to the future. Pandit Nehru himself said about Vivekananda. He said he was firmly rooted in the with pride in India's past, but looking to the future. We also should be like that, firmly rooted in Upanishads, in Shankara, and drawing upon all these resources. In Sanskrit, Nyaya, Sankhya, Yoga, the Buddhist, Jaina heritage, all of it, and of course Vedanta, but also engaging with the contemporary problems and looking to the future.
पूज्य स्वामी जी, आपके श्री चरणों में प्रणाम करते हैं। शिवम शांतम अद्वैतम चतुर्थम मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः। ये जो फोर्थ स्टेज ऑफ कॉन्शसनेस है, चतुर्थ स्तर है, इसमें सारे प्रयोग धर्मी सिद्धांत हैं, पर भारतीय कोश कहते हैं कि जो मोक्ष है, मोहस्य त्यागः मोक्षः, जिस क्षण मोह का नाश होता है मोक्ष हो जाता है। जैसे एक चतुर स्त्री चिमटे, उस जड़ चिमटे को पकड़कर चेतनवत कार्य करा लेती है, ये आत्मा इस जड़ शरीर से चेतनवत कार्य कराता रहता है। वेदांत के इस मूल में कि वेद की पूर्णता ही वेदांत है। जब हम सब में यह ज्ञान व्याप्त है, उस आनंद का स्रोत अनवरत बह रहा है, इस स्थिति में भी हम कैसे अपने सभी के अंतःकरण में इस ज्ञान का प्रकाश, क्योंकि चेतना के जागृत होने से चैतन्य, चेतना सब में है पर चैतन्य कोई कोई है, पर वो चैतन्यता सब में मुखरित हो। इस वेदांत की कैसे शोध परक, अध्ययन परक व्यवस्थाएं संभव हैं। वेदांत पीठ ओंकारेश्वर में बन रहा है, उस पर आपका आशीर्वाद हो जाए कि किस तरह से अध्ययन, अध्यापन और प्रत्येक के आनंद आह्लाद मुखरित हो, रोमांचित हो। जब अंतःकरण पवित्र होगा तभी सब कुछ हो पाएगा। आपके चरणों में प्रार्थना है।
Wonderful observation, wonderful observation. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yes.
Swamiji, now coming next on to the next session now. If you can enlighten us on the antithesis of Vedanta and its core teaching of oneness, which is the duality, and which is the root cause of all the problems, which are happening not only, around the world, but also in the individuals, in the society, in the countries, and internationally. Your thoughts on that.
Yes. So what you are asking is, Advaita is fine. We're talking about Advaita, but the fact is, duality, Dvaita, difference. It's a matter of our experience. We can talk about Advaita, but we are in a world of duality. We are seeing difference here. We are not experiencing oneness. We are experiencing difference. So, what about that? 2 points I'll make here. One is, the problem is not duality itself. The problem is the ignorance of non-duality. So, realizing the non-dual nature of reality and then living in this world of experience. World of experience will always require an experience of duality. Duality is not real, but it's the structure of experience. Subject-object duality must be there in order to have an experience. So once you realize that the subject and object are ultimately one consciousness, and then you come back to this world where you feel that you have this body-mind and you have this world of action, one can live in an experience of as if duality with the knowledge of non-duality, and that will solve the problem. What the problem is, that we do not know non-duality, we do not know our essential Ekatma, oneness, and we feel this otherness is real. And because of this felt otherness, all our reaction to the world is like competition, war, hatred, anxiety, fear. Upanishad says, Dvitiyad vai bhayam bhavati. From accepting the second as a real other, fear comes, anxiety comes, competition comes. Even behind desire is fear only, fear of incompleteness. So the straight answer to your question is that knowledge of non-duality, and then you live in the world of this dual appearance, there is no problem at all. Ignorance of non-duality, then this world of dualistic appearances will catch you. About bhakti, there's a beautiful saying, Bodhat prak dvaitam mohaya. Before enlightenment, duality leads to moha, delusion, and all problems. Prapte manishaya bhakti artam kalpitam dvaitam advaitadapi sundaram. So it's a question about whether bhakti is possible in Advaita. After you are enlightened, you realize aham brahmasmi, I am that limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. After that, a kalpitam dvaitam. You take, Vivekananda uses the word as if from outside. You are that one non-dual reality, but then you go back into your Praveen identity, and that non-dual reality which you have realized now becomes your beloved Ishvara, and you can have a relationship of bhakti. So a projected duality based on the knowledge of non-duality is not a problem. Yeah, I think I gave a rather abstruse answer to this question.
Any questions, from the audience now?
Pranam Swamiji, my name is Preeti Mandal, and kindly enlighten me on how a student should live a Vedantic life.
how a student should live a Vedantic life.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, Swamiji.
There is a saying, Chhatranam Adhyayanam Tapa. For students, spiritual practice is that studentship, study. Everything related to the study. So that your main activity, the whole life is centered around the acquisition of knowledge. And that has to be spiritualized. Tapasya, spiritual practice, is your the knowledge which you are practicing, knowledge which you are acquiring. So that becomes your spiritual practice. Make that your center. Remember, the goal of life is the same for everybody, for the Mahatmas here, for Praveen ji, for you, all of us. We are moving towards enlightenment, God realization, in Vivekananda's words, manifestation of the divinity within oneself. So, these four areas. One is not only knowledge, that cultivation of that knowledge, that is one central. Let me give you a little anecdote about that. I mentioned Professor Spivak. She was pretty close to our Swami Pavitrananda ji in the Vedanta Society of New York. One day she came and said to Pavitrananda ji, as I've got from her, that I can't believe in God anymore, I've become an atheist. Pavitrananda ji told her, that's all right. For you, from now on, your academics is your spiritual practice. In Bengali he said, Tomar adhyayani, tomar tapasya. And then she says, from that day till now, whether I'm teaching in Columbia University or in Paris or in girls' child education in a remote village of Bengal, everywhere I feel I'm doing spiritual practice. So study is spiritual practice. That's one. Second thing, attention, concentration, not distraction. So that's the second thing. For students, concentration, for everybody, but for students especially, focus or concentration is an extremely important thing. And there's a huge science of focus, of concentration, especially today's world, the world of social media and distraction. So one thing that to lead a Vedantic life, concentration is extremely important. In fact, in one place Adi Shankaracharya says, all tapasya is meant for ekagrata of the mind, concentration of the mind.
Beautiful.
Shankaracharya has said.
Beautiful.
Upadesha Sahasri has said it, and somewhere else also he has said it. So all tapasya is meant for focus or concentration of mind. Third, some form of devotion. See, desire is damaging for everybody. Especially for students, desire, vasana, is very damaging. It destroys student life. So instead of desire, devotion. The same energy, same love, same desire, you focus it towards some form of Ishvara, in whichever your tradition is. And fourth, service. The Brahmacharya ashram, student life, that one of the components of that is seva. Whether it is the teacher, whether it is your fellow students, whether it is the school or community, parents, everywhere an attitude of service. So four things, let me sum up. To lead a spiritual life, make studies your central spiritual practice. Make concentration your spiritual practice.
Beautiful.
Make devotion, not desire, your spiritual practice.
Beautiful.
And make seva, not selfish activity, selfless activity, your spiritual practice.
Beautiful. Yeah, we had somebody from here.
Yes, I'm Ashwin Raut. I'm a researcher in integrative genomics.
In
Integrative genomics.
Integrative genomics.
Yeah, biomedical sciences.
Ji.
Actually, my question is, in double slit experiment, hypothetically, if we replace these electrons with the living cell, will they behave similar fashion as electrons based on the presence or absence of the observer? And if so, then the outcome of the biological experiments are dependent on the intent of the observer and not on the controlled experimental conditions in which they are tested.
You see,
My question.
one problem of being a Mahatma is they think you know everything in the world.
Double slit experiment is
I know. So that's the whole from genesis of the quantum mechanics, the particle wave duality.
Yeah.
Yes. But what you are suggesting, you know better, sir, because it is your area. I have really no idea. But let me just say one thing and I'll stop there. Right now I'm reading a book by an Italian quantum physicist, Carlo Rovelli. He's a leading quantum physicist, but his specialty is that he writes beautifully, almost poetically about physics. So the name of the book is Helgoland. And there he talks about how Heisenberg, how Born, then Einstein also, and then Schrödinger, all of them, they developed what is modern quantum mechanics. So he talks about that. And he talks about the double slit experiment, what it means. Then the possible interpretations of quantum mechanics. What does quantum mechanics mean for our world? Many worlds hypothesis, he finally comes down to idea that everything is relationships, depends on relationships. But why I'm mentioning all this is, leading quantum mechanics professor in the West, one of the leading scientists, talking about quantum mechanics. The last part of the book is straight from Nagarjuna. He says, when I talk about quantum mechanics, people keep asking me, have you read Nagarjuna? Then I thought, who is this Nagarjuna? Let me read. And then I found out nearly 2000 years ago, he was a Buddhist master, and he read Mula Madhyamaka Karika in English translation with Professor Garfield's commentary. I studied Madhyamaka under Professor Garfield at Harvard University. And then this book, big part of it, he says it is so amazing to think that nearly 2000 years ago, a Buddhist master in ancient India has this theory that everything is interdependent. So the idea of shunyata is this, the word they use is that pratitya samutpada, this interdependence, that is the real nature of shunyata, emptiness of all things because they are all mutually dependent. He says, that enabled me to understand quantum mechanics better. What the question I was trying to understand, what is the meaning of quantum mechanics for our world? I got the key by reading this ancient Indian philosopher. See, the problem is, what I feel is, because of our lack of confidence in ourselves, coming from the colonial self, what is called the shadow mind, the colonial mind. Professor K.C. Bhattacharya, in his very important essay, Swaraj in Ideas, he says, this was written before independence. He says, very soon the British power, colonial power will leave these shores, but it will continue in our minds. It will continue in our minds. We don't have that confidence that Nagarjuna, Shankara, Kumarila Bhatta, they can say something which can help us to crack the problems of science in our modern age. We say that, वो आध्यात्मिक पुरुष है, दूर से प्रणाम करते हैं, लेकिन my science is different. No, it is not different. So, Carlo Rovelli is not an enthusiast in that sense. He is not saying that Nagarjuna knew quantum mechanics, but he said he has some intuitive understanding, and depending on the commentaries which have come after that, those are helping us today to understand the mystery of quantum mechanics. So that is what I want to say. So, I mean, of course, not an answer to your question. I wouldn't even presume to answer your question.
Actually, I need your comment. Like spirituality, see, genomics has revolutionized scientific world since 20 years, and it has touched each and every part of our lives. But it has not been applied or explored the spirituality, the Indian Vedanta practices. So I need your comment, if you can, like whether these genomics can be applied to investigate and characterize the biological signatures of the human bodies.
Again, sir, it is, what you have to do is, I'll tell you seriously, what you have to do, whether you or ma'am is here in the education field, you have to take the insights that you get from Vedanta, from us and from the texts, then you have to reflect like Carlo Rovelli did. Carlo Rovelli will never ask me or Nagarjuna, what do you think of quantum mechanics? No, he will study Nagarjuna and understand the insights from Nagarjuna, then contemplate what he is doing, what answer he can get from there. So what you have to do is, you cannot expect me to give an answer to a question in genomics. Absolutely not. And you should not trust anything I say about genomics. So what you should do...
Maybe you can take the essence, from these philosophies.
Yes.
And do an experiment yourself, and you'll find an answer.
Which you will. Certainly you will.
Which you will,
Right.
It can be done, but it should be tried out, I think.
That is the sign of a confident culture.
Absolutely.
We can draw upon things and think for ourselves.
Okay. Any more questions we have?
स्वामी जी को प्रणाम. मैं लता मुंशी हूँ. I am dancer, Bharatnatyam classical dance.
जी.
And my spiritual practice is my sadhana, my tapasya, my practice.
Yes, absolutely.
So I just wanted to know, Swamiji, कि sometimes when we perform in a stage, there is a one condition where that time we just forget everything. Even we can't see the audience light, even for ourselves also. So that condition, what is that condition?
That is very close to samadhi. I mean, it's not samadhi technically, but it's very close to samadhi. I will suggest one book you should read. It's called Flow. Flow, Flow. There exactly what you're talking about is talked about. Professor Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, this gentleman who was from Eastern Europe, he became one of the leading psychologists in the United States. He passed away just a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago. All his life he studied concentration, attention. What's the best possible life we can lead? The life of full attention, concentration. The name he gave to it, he got that name from I think a tennis player or something. Oh no, a musician. Flow. Classical Western music orchestra. He said that person said, when I do it perfectly, the music just flows. So what you are describing, usually musicians, dancers, artists, those who cultivate a skill, a classical skill, and do it seriously, they experience this state. It's a state of perfect concentration. So please read that book. And I will also mention Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, in that book, he says, I have studied the literatures of the world about concentration, wherever there is some in different cultures of the world. And the text which I found, which is describing the state of flow in most detail, most sophisticated way, is an ancient Indian text called Patanjali Yoga Sutra.
Is it the correct way to oneness or Advaita?
So in that book, he has got 2 or 3 pages he has devoted to Patanjali Yoga Sutra. What I am talking about today, he says thousands of years ago in ancient India, he mentions in that book. These people had. So what they are doing is taking these ideas, genuinely thinking about it, rethinking, repackaging, relabeling, and then selling it to us. Then Mahatma will recommend, please read the book Flow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The one question is always there, is the level of consciousness different in Jada and Chetan?
So the question is the level of consciousness different in Jada and Chetan? So these are very big questions. I can give you the answer from Advaita Vedanta, but also your idea about the level of consciousness, that I will also say from modern consciousness studies. So, Advaita Vedanta answer is very simple. There are no levels of consciousness. Levels, difference, change always is in the Jada. It's in the Upadhi. In the body, in the mind, in the prana, there are different levels of expression. Consciousness is one and the same. Now, it is reflected in these upadhis at different levels. That is true. But what you are saying about level of consciousness is, this terminology is used in some of the latest theories of consciousness which are coming out. Integrated information theory of autonomy, global workspace theory. Some people are talking about levels of consciousness. So, nowadays, in the West, in consciousness studies, there is this idea that some serious researchers are talking about it, that consciousness may be all pervasive. It's not just being produced in the brain, it is all pervasive. It is there everywhere. Now we'll say, then is an atom conscious, is the table conscious? They will say yes, but the levels of consciousness are different. So that language they use. This is the answer.
हरिओम स्वामी जी, मेरा नाम सुरजन सिंह है और मैं कॉलोनियल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मेडिकल साइंस भोपाल में रिसर्चर हूँ। मेरा जो डोमेन है एपिलेप्सी और योगा है, तो मेरा आपके कई वीडियोस देखे हैं, उन्हीं में से क्वेश्चन है कि आज जो सभी की प्रॉब्लम है कि ये सब डिजीज़ से ग्रसित हैं, हाउ वेदांता हेल्प टू क्योर द डिजीज, नॉट ओनली प्रिवेंशन ऑफ डिजीज.
Yes, the question is how Vedanta can help to cure a disease and not only prevention of disease. Both prevention and cure, Vedanta can help. Swami Brahmananda used to say, give your mind to the body and mind to the world will destroy it, body and mind. Give your body and mind to God, to Ishvara, Bhagavan. Your both body and mind will be well. Now, there are different ways. Modern positive psychology has shown that selflessness, altruism is very important for mental and physical health. The more we think about ourselves, the more sick we become. The more we think about others, more busy we are with trying to help others, the more mentally healthy we are. The basic principle of karma yoga. It's good. Goal is for enlightenment. Goal is not for physical health, but it will give you physical and mental health. It's preventive and curative also. Second, devotion. These things, now people are beginning to talk about it. Devotion, bhakti, that is of great consequence, great good benefit for our physical health and mental health also. And this, who is telling me? I am not saying from a Vedanta perspective or Hindu perspective. People will dismiss it as, Babaji bol rahe hain, what is the... But I'll tell you who is saying this. APA, American Psychiatry Association, Washington DC, few months ago they called a meeting. I was representative of Hinduism, they were representatives of Christianity, Buddhism and Islam and all others had gone. They said, meeting of most powerful psychiatry body in the world, APA. And they are inviting leaders of religions. And they said, our question was, till now you have been treating religion as a pathology. Psychiatrists were most hostile to religion. Why are you calling us now? And then their answer was, you cannot argue with the data. The data shows those who have some genuine devotion, some genuine love of God in their heart, they are mentally more resilient, they are more resistant to mental illness, and if they do get mental illness, their recovery is also always much better, they are more resilient. So devotion is another way Vedanta helps in physical and mental health. Then concentration, focus. Distraction leads to an illness. Focus is good for mental health. And most important, the idea that I am the witness self. Even if there is physical illness in the body, even if there is mental illness or unhappiness, depression in the mind, even schizophrenia in the mind, the idea that I am the witness of the storm in the mind. When the mind is calm and peaceful, like the bright blue sky, I am the witness. When the mind is stormy, I am the witness. I am all right under both circumstances. If this idea can be implanted in the minds of the patients, protocol has to be developed for that. Mindfulness is already being used for treatment. Protocol for using Vedantic reasoning. People think, why, how can we do that? We can, that confidence is necessary. Right now, the most useful and recommended form of psychological or therapeutic intervention in the United States is CBT, this cognitive behavior therapy. And with cognitive behavior therapy, the way they treat the patient as a client, and the patient must understand his or her own problems, and then strategies will be implemented to come out of it. From understanding, feelings are changed. And understanding and feelings are changed, then behavior can be changed also. So cognitive behavior therapy. And there is no time to give a talk on that. But Vedanta can easily be segued into, you can easily put in and develop new CBT procedures, Vedanta based. Aap karo na, lag jao usme. Yes.
Yeah. So just your final words, Swamiji, on Vedanta as the future religion.
Swami Vivekananda, this is Swami Vivekananda's words. Vedanta is the future religion of humanity. Why? Is it any problem with other religions? No. But the thing is, there are certain aspects of Vedanta which make it suitable, which I also see all the time. One aspect is rationality, logic. Whatever question you ask, there is some clear thinking about it, or at least some way of finding out a clear answer about it. At no point will you be told, maan lo, vishwas kar lo. No. So rationality, inquiry is the basis of Vedanta. That's one great advantage. In this day and age, when a day and age of scientific inquiry, skepticism, atheists, so I found that is one advantage of Vedanta. Another advantage is impersonal in nature. It's not saying that you have to believe it. Even Adi Shankaracharya himself, he is there, which is completely impersonal. At no point is he saying you have to worship me or I am the founder of your religion. Not at all. He is always happy to keep himself in the background. The importance, what is Shankaracharya called in the Himalayas? Bhagavan Bhashyakar, the great commentator, Lord commentator. It's a knowledge-based thing. He is transmitting knowledge to us. It's an impersonal system. However, it is not against personality. Vivekananda said it's an impersonal system with scope of any number of personalities. If you have a personality-based system, if X is my guru, X is my teacher, X is my avatar, X is my prophet, or whatever I call it, then it becomes against all other. Y, Z will now be excluded, because only one personality I will catch hold of. But if you have an impersonal system of knowledge, an impersonal system of spirituality, limitless existence consciousness place, then X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, jitne allow personality, as many avatars, as many prophets, as many masters, as many Buddhas, as many Jinas, you come, all are welcome. All are welcome, easily you can accommodate everybody. That's another advantage of Vedanta. So again, Vedanta is based on harmony. Vedanta is based on harmony, not on rejecting others, but harmonizing different religions, harmonizing science and religion, harmonizing your secular life, so-called secular life and spiritual life. So this idea of harmony, which is very necessary for the world today, multiple advantages are there, because of which I think Vedanta is the future philosophy and spirituality for humanity. People may not use the name. People may not use the name. They may be against using the name, but the idea will be there. That has come from Vedanta. Professor Jeffrey Long, he teaches Hinduism in Elizabethtown College in the United States. He told gave an example. He said, people in the US, many people have Hindu ideas, but they don't want to identify as Hindu. They will say, they will criticize Hinduism. They say Hinduism is 3C, caste, cow and curry. Caste, cow and curry. So they criticize. And he was talking with one lady, American lady, and she was saying, no, I am not Hindu, I am not Hindu. And she's saying many things, and finally she said, I have to go, it is time for my puja. So they may not, we also don't say that you have to accept the label. All right, the ideas will transform. The ideas are of, Swami Vivekananda said, first of all, we must equip ourselves with these ideas. We must have confidence in this, and to some extent at least realize these ideas in our life and in our society. Then we can confidently share it. Vivekananda's words, share it with other nations of the world for the benefit of the world. We have no desire for name and fame. It is for our benefit and for the benefit of the nation and benefit of the international community, benefit of future generations. So Vedanta is definitely the spirituality and philosophy of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you so much.
For being part of this Oneness Dialogues. And thank you for enlightening our audiences with your such beautiful inspirational words of wisdom.
Thank you for your patience and their patience.
with your experience, with your perspective, with all the wonderful knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.